It was just announced that 41 out of 44 of the Indiana Fever games will be nationally televised. So this is great news not only for the Indiana Fever, but also for the WNBA, right? So why is everyone upset?
Recall when WNBA players were earnestly imploring networks to broadcast their games for years. The Indiana Fever, having advocated for visibility, media coverage, and national respect, are now receiving 41 nationally televised games. Yet, this has become a contentious issue. The hypocrisy is astonishing. The very individuals who called for increased coverage are now lamenting its excess. However, the statistics are indisputable. Caitlin Clark's Fever games shattered viewing records, resulting in sold-out arenas and necessitating venue alterations.
I do not think a lot of people are understanding just how big that is. Nearly every single game of the Indiana Fever will be nationally broadcast.
Why is success now perceived as a betrayal? Furthermore, it is astonishing that the very executives who previously disregarded the WNBA are now competing for the rights to broadcast Fever games. This shift is not indicative of a newfound interest in women's sports. Rather, it is a manifestation of pure business motives, driven by financial incentives.
I cannot remember a time that any other team in sports history, we're talking about NBA, we're talking about NFL, it is no secret that the Indiana Fever are by far the most popular team in the WNBA.
Allow me to illustrate precisely why networks are eager to broadcast Fever games on national television. When Indiana confronted Chicago last June, an astonishing 3.3 million viewers were engaged. Consider that for a moment. These figures significantly surpassed the viewership of numerous NBA regular season games, and this was not merely an anomaly or isolated occurrence.
And I'm so glad that we are finally just, I don't know if admitting it is the right word, but they're finally acting on it. And you guys, I'm happy that they're acting on it because this news is not only just good for the Indiana Fever and Indiana Fever fans, it is good for the entire WNBA.
The playoff matchup against Connecticut attracted approximately 3 million viewers. The WNBA All-Star Game featuring Clark, it shattered records with 3.44 million viewers, making it the most watched WNBA broadcast in ESPN's entire history. We're not talking about good for women's sports numbers. Here we're talking about numbers that are forcing executives to completely rethink what's possible in basketball broadcasting.
So if we look at the highest viewed games, so with 3.3 million, it was the Indiana Fever versus the Chicago Sky on June 23rd. And then we had 2.97 million, and that was the Indiana Fever versus the Connecticut Sun, and that was during the playoffs. And then we also had with 3.44 million, that was the WNBA All-Star Game, and that was the most watched WNBA program in ESPN history.
The most revealing aspect is how the Fever unequivocally dominated the ratings charts, securing the top 4 most viewed regular season games. The sole broadcast that surpassed them was Game 5 of the finals, which was unrelated to the Fever. Consider this. A team that did not even reach the championship round generated more viewership than nearly all other matchups in the league.
The game against the Chicago Sky, the home opener on ABC. The game against the New York Liberty, also on ABC. How about a Tuesday at 8 p.m. on ESPN against the New York Liberty?
Here's where it gets even more intriguing. The Fever weren't even winning that much. They were merely an ordinary team last season, yet still packed arenas and drew massive TV audiences. This completely shatters the concept that fans only watch successful teams. What we're witnessing is the pure star power effect. Fans want to see Caitlin Clark play, win or lose.
They proved that all of last season with everyone against them, with everyone trying to diminish the wave that was happening, the Clarkonomics that were happening, the Caitlin Clark effect that was happening.
Networks aren't making these judgments based on feelings or fairness. They're looking at cold, hard viewership data that correlates directly to advertising dollars. When executives see numbers like these, the decision to broadcast 41 out of 44 Fever games nationally isn't favoritism. It's just smart business. They literally can't afford not to show these games when millions of fans are demanding it.
So when we talk about these networks that are picking up these games, I think a lot of people also don't realize these networks are choosing the games that they would like to have. These networks are not thinking about hurting feelings. These networks are thinking about how much money can we bring in for ourselves as well.
So when we talk about these networks that are picking up these games, I think a lot of people also don't realize these networks are choosing the games that they would like to have. These networks are not thinking about hurting feelings. These networks are thinking about how much money can we bring in for ourselves as well. What we're witnessing is the market responding in real time to consumer demand. Networks aren't creating this phenomenon. They're simply following where the audience is already going, and the data couldn't be clearer about where that audience wants to.
We have ABC, NBA TV, Prime Video, CBS, ESPN, 1, 2, 3. And as you can see, these games, May through September, there will be games on national TV.
These viewership patterns are completely reshaping what networks believed was possible for women's basketball. The ceiling has been shattered, and now there's a mad scramble to capitalize on it. That's why 41 Fever games will be nationally televised, an unprecedented move that's sending shockwaves through the league.
I'm trying to say, it's common sense. I don't get it. I don't get the pushback. And I'm so happy that this is happening. This is something we should all be celebrating. We should be celebrating this, whether it was the Indiana Fever doing it, whether it was the New York Liberty doing it, whether it was the Phoenix Mercury doing it. I don't care what team. This is great news for women's basketball, period.
The television revolution is just the beginning. Teams are physically changing where games are played because of the Caitlin Clark effect. Remember those intimate 5,000-seat arenas that used to be the WNBA standard? They're suddenly not good enough anymore. At least 6 WNBA teams have already announced they're moving games to arenas 3 times larger. Specifically, when the Fever come to town, this isn't just about adding a few extra seats. We're talking about completely abandoning their normal home courts for massive venues that can accommodate the tidal wave of fans.
I also wanted to mention that a lot of these WNBA teams are moving venues when the Indiana Fever come to town. There have been 6 teams that have changed venues when the Indiana Fever come to play. All of these arenas are selling out.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Some team owners are trying to hide what's really happening. Can you believe the Atlanta Dream owner actually claimed they were moving to a bigger venue because of a scheduling conflict? Come on, the timing makes it obvious this is all about Clark. It's like watching someone with chocolate all over their face insisting they didn't eat the cookies.
It has to be something where if it's pride, if it's ego. We talked about how the Atlanta Dream owner said that they were moving venues only because of a scheduling conflict. It wasn't because the Indiana Fever were coming in town. Like, they made up some weird excuse.
These teams that have played at modest arenas for years are suddenly hiring 15,000-seat venues for Fever games and pretending it's just some crazy coincidence. What we're seeing is this odd situation where owners are secretly trying to cash in on Clark's popularity while publicly downplaying her impact. They want the money, but don't want to admit why they're receiving it.
So on top of the viewership numbers on television, you are also getting the in-attendance ticket sales for all of these games, not only at Gainbridge, because I've told you guys I've tried to buy tickets for the Fever games in Indiana and it's nearly impossible to get tickets that I want. Those are all sold out.
And getting tickets to see the Fever at home, good luck with that. Indiana's home games are reportedly selling out faster than any team in league history. Fans who've been able to casually buy tickets for years are now finding it nearly impossible to secure seats. The demand is completely unprecedented.
And then every single road game is also sold out, to the fact that they're having to move venues to arenas that hold 3 times the amount of people than the ones that they were playing in before. I would love to see it get to a point where every single team in the WNBA, if they have the resources for it, move their venue to a bigger venue when the Indiana Fever come in town.
You might be thinking this is all positive news for the league, right? More fans, bigger venues, sold out games. This is exactly what the WNBA has wanted forever. But somehow some fans and even players are suggesting people should boycott watching Fever games. Can you imagine that the exact opposite of what would actually help grow the league? It's like finally getting that job promotion you've been working toward for years and then asking to be demoted.
You truly have to get to a point. If you care about the growth of the game, if you don't care about the growth of the game and you don't care about every other player in the WNBA, then don't change a thing. Keep it to the small arena. Don't change a thing. Don't promote that game. Boycott watching the Indiana Fever games. You are only doing that if you don't care about anyone else.
What these naysayers are missing is the most obvious benefit when 15,000 fans show up instead of 5,000. That's 10,000 more people seeing every single player on both teams. That's 10,000 potential new fans discovering players they might never have watched before. Those fans might come for Clark, but leave as fans of other stars they see sharing the court with her.
When they play in these arenas where there are 15 to 20,000 people in the stands, they are in front of people that they haven't been in front of before. That is an opportunity for all of us fans to get to know all the players on the court, all of the players in the WNBA, to pick new favorite players, to pick other teams that we want to follow along.
As teams rush to larger venues and pocket the profits, a bizarre contradiction is unfolding behind the scenes. After years of begging for national attention, certain WNBA players and fans are now actually upset about getting exactly what they wanted. It's like watching someone dying of thirst finally reach water only to argue about which cup they should drink from.
Momentum is still going, and dare I say, the momentum seems to be even crazier than it was in year one. The Clark crazies, the Caitlin Clark effect seems to be crazier than year one. More people are getting on board. More people are watching women's basketball. More people are watching women's college basketball. The momentum is here. Do not slow the momentum because of ego.
Think about it. For decades, WNBA players have been speaking out about the unfair coverage gap. They've been practically begging networks to place their games in prime time slots. Now that it's finally happening, there's this bizarre response brewing within the league itself.
Broadcast. That is something that the WNBA players, WNBA media, WNBA fans have been begging for so many years. So many people have been saying the WNBA will grow if we just have more access to it, make the games available, put them in prime television spots, do all these things. Now it is happening, and it is happening with the Indiana Fever.
That also means that all of the other teams will also be on national TV. Some players and fans are calling out the Fever for getting special treatment with their nationally televised games. But what exactly do they expect networks to do? Ignore the millions of viewers who are clearly showing what they want to watch? That's not how broadcasting works. It's a business driven by viewership, not a charity designed to give equal airtime regardless of audience interest.
Now, I feel like what a lot of people who aren't fans of the Indiana Fever or don't want to see this happening, they're mad about it, but they're also not realizing because there's so many Indiana Fever games on national TV, that also means that all of the other teams will also be on national TV.
What's even more shocking is that some critics are actively trying to sabotage the league's growth. They're encouraging fans should illegally stream games instead of watching official broadcasts. Do you realize how crazy that is? When fans pirate games instead of watching them through official channels, it directly hurts the league's ability to show networks that viewership is growing. Those numbers are what justify future broadcasting deals, the very thing WNBA players have been fighting for.
But it bothers me because I feel like you should be happy about this. Whether you like the Indiana Fever or not, whether you like Caitlin Clark or not, it has gotten to the point where we can no longer deny the fact that they are the biggest draw in the WNBA, and they proved that all of last season.
This creates a completely self-defeating cycle. First, players complain about not getting coverage. Then when they finally get it, they complain it's unfair. Next, they encourage fans to sabotage official viewership numbers. Then networks lose interest because the numbers don't justify the investment, and we end up right back where we started, with players complaining about lack of coverage.
Everyone trying to diminish that and not just riding the wave and realizing it is not only going to be good for this Indiana Fever team, it's going to be great for everyone. It's going to be great for every single player in the WNBA and also every single team in the WNBA.
Critics are completely missing the bigger picture here. When the Fever play against other team players like Raya Jackson, get unprecedented exposure to, they're suddenly playing in front of millions of new potential fans who might never have watched a WNBA game before. That's how stars are born, through exposure.
Doing that to try to spite the Indiana Fever or to spite Caitlin Clark or to say, oh, they're not really that great, is literally doing nothing but hurting the game overall. All of these players, when they are on national TV, they have a chance to be in front of the biggest audiences that they've ever been in front of before.
The timing couldn't be more critical with the current collective bargaining agreement negotiations on the horizon. The league desperately needs to demonstrate growth and profitability to justify the higher salaries and better conditions that all players deserve here. Here's a fact most fans don't realize: the WNBA has never been profitable in its entire existence. Not once since it began. This moment could finally change that trajectory, but only if everyone embraces this growth instead of fighting against it.
We want to follow along. We're watching, and I say we, like talking about Indiana Fever fans because they have the most fans, right? They're watching their team and then they see them play against the Los Angeles Sparks. All of a sudden they see Rickea Jackson, who didn't get that much spotlight during her rookie season. I thought she deserved much more. They see Rickea Jackson, they see that she's a star. All of a sudden they want to start following her. They want to start tuning into some Los Angeles Sparks games, even when they're not playing the Indiana Fever, even though that's their core team that they love.
So what we're looking at is a landmark opportunity for women's basketball. This is the breakthrough that pioneer players have been dreaming about for decades, as one WNBA analyst put it. This is something we should all be celebrating. This is great news for women's basketball, period. Every network broadcast brings new fans, new sponsorships, and ultimately benefits the entire ecosystem.
There has been so much chatter lately about the CBA negotiations and if there will be a WNBA lockout happening, if players are going to demand more. This is the year that they want to do whatever they possibly can to show that they deserve more and also be profitable. The WNBA has not been profitable for the entirety of its existence, and that is just a fact. I feel like we should be able to say that. They haven't been profitable. They have been losing money. The WNBA doesn't even own 100% of its own league. The NBA owns 50% of it. So the WNBA has to go above and beyond to get to a point where it's like, hey, these players deserve more, and they deserve more because look at the revenue that we're bringing in, look at the viewership that we're bringing in, look at the attendance at the games, and this is the way to do it.
Don't overlook what this signifies for the future of player compensation. With CBA negotiation on the horizon, this rise in attention creates real leverage. Industry insiders are already remarking that this is the year that they want to do anything they possibly can to show that they deserve more. The players finally have receipts to back up their value. Finally,
this is what we have been screaming for at the top of our lungs for years, and it's happening. Get on board. This is good for everyone. Everyone is on a platform now. Everyone has the eyeballs they deserve. We are now getting to see the top, however many players, I'm not sure how many at this point players there are in the WNBA. We are now getting to see the best players in the world on the biggest stage, in the biggest arenas. Embrace it. Take the moment. If you actually care about women's basketball, that's what you're going to be doing, and you're not going to be fighting this every single way.
Look, the route forward is obvious. This isn't about one player. It's about embracing a catalyst for growth that lifts up everyone in the league. The networks have made their decision based on what fans want. Now it's time for the WNBA community to unite behind this momentum and transform it into the sustainable future that women's basketball has always deserved.